How to get out of your head so you can get stuff done. How to do that. How to stop overthinking. I have struggled with overthinking for much of my life. I'm better now. I have recovered. I have gone through Overthinkers Anonymous, come out the other side, got my little badge. Just kidding, lol. I don't always have my shit together, but I have figured some things out along the way. The big thing is that we are not our thoughts, and the shit going through our head, it's pretty random at the best of times. It's not who we are necessarily. Some of those thoughts seem particularly compelling, and we like to get caught up in those ones, the really compelling ones, either stuff that's really, really good that we're thinking about or really negative that we're thinking about. We tend to get caught up in those thoughts, things that are particularly charged for us, but it's still just a thought in our head, okay? And I find it really helpful to remind myself of that. This is just noise in the background. It's just the soundtrack to my day. I don't have to get caught up in it. And over time, I've gotten better at that. Overthinking is a skill that we have developed, okay? And like with developing any muscle, we've fed that muscle, we've built that skill. Every time we engage with a thought and we overthink, every time we feed it, it gets stronger, right? The overthinking gets easier to do. That skill, we get better at that skill, okay? And in order to let go of that, to move past that, we need to starve it. We need to stop feeding that muscle. We need to stop practicing that skill set. So in the beginning, it is kind of painful to set aside those thoughts and not engage with them all the time. But with practice, we do get better at it. And with practice, those thoughts do get weaker, right? And a big thing I find is taking action. It can be specific action related to the thought, like maybe you're overthinking a task. Like I have spent times overthinking making a video. I would find myself watching video after video on YouTube about how to make videos or how to do better on YouTube, etc., right? Anyone who makes videos, I'm sure you've gone down that rabbit hole as well. And that's just overthinking, right? Like some of that information is useful, but at a certain point, you got to get off your butt and take action. So I would feel like I was doing something valuable by watching all these videos and gathering information, but really I was just overthinking it. All of that was preventing me from just hitting the record button, right? So taking action, hitting record in that case, it's a very specific thing related to the overthinking and action that we can take, right? That's an example. Also, just being active in general, like the more physical we are, the easier it is to let go of the stuff going on in our heads. If we do stuff, whether it's physical activity like, exercise, going for a walk, lifting weights, practicing martial arts, that kind of thing, or it's just getting busy, doing something with your hands like crocheting or doing some kind of project, art, whatever, building something, whatever it is, doing something physical, it gives your mind something to think about, right? Our mind likes to stay busy. It likes to focus on stuff. And if we don't give it something productive to do or something valuable to do, it doesn't always have to be productive in a capitalist sense, but if we don't give it something to focus on, it'll find stuff to focus on. And that can often lead to overthinking and anxiety and all sorts of stuff that goes on in our heads. So giving it something physical to focus on, doing some task, right? Getting off our butt, going for a walk, doing something active, doing something physical. And at the same time, recognizing that those thoughts are just thoughts and we don't have to engage with them all the time. So what I do is it isn't a form of denial. It's going to sound like denial, but I acknowledge the thoughts as thoughts and I look at them and I say, okay, is this thought useful? If it's not useful, I let go of it. I let it go. I push it away. Sometimes I do this technique. It's the brick wall technique, I like to call it. I imagine that thought is behind a brick wall and that helps me stop focusing on the thought, okay? And in the beginning, when a thought is really pervasive, really overwhelming and compelling, doing something like some kind of visualization like that, like putting it behind a wall or putting it in a box or that kind of thing, chaining it up and drowning it in the bottom of the ocean, doing something like that can really help to push that thought away. But again, it's not denial. I'm, recognizing the thought, looking at it and saying, is this valuable? Okay, if it's not, I'm just going to push that away. I don't need to focus on that. And then after that, I focus on what I need to do. What action do I need to take? So if I'm overthinking video production, I just need to get off my butt and make a video. If I'm overthinking my workouts, I just need to do something. I need to do some training. I need to do some kata. I need to lift some weights. I don't need to spend more time thinking and planning and researching and watching videos and reading books. I need to take action. What doesn't help me, these are things that do not help me, and I've done in the past when I've really caught up in overthinking, which can become this anxious thing, right? Things that don't help are talking about it with someone, like talking about the thoughts in my head, because I'm just giving them more attention. Another thing that does not work is journaling. Journaling can be great, but journaling when I'm already overthinking just becomes this cesspool of neuroticism in a journal. It's not worth it. It doesn't help me. Okay, any kind of dwelling in any way, giving attention to those thoughts, paying attention to them, giving voice to them, that kind of thing. And I'm not talking about like, things that I'm scared of or big anxieties or big stuff. I'm just talking about shit that goes on in my head that I'm thinking too much about. Okay, that is not helpful to talk about and release and that kind of thing. I'm not talking about, some things we need to talk about and get it off our chest, get it out of our head, right? But this is just the bullshit that's constantly going around and around in our heads, right? That we churn around and pay too much attention to, and that keeps us from taking action. So stopping the engagement with those thoughts is really important for me. Any kind of engagement with them, if I talk about them, if I write about it, any of that kind of stuff, it just keeps those thoughts alive in my head. It gives them power. It keeps, feeding that muscle of overthinking, right? It keeps building that skill of overthinking. So the best thing for me to do is just to not even focus on it and focus on something else. Focus on action, something physical, doing something, right? And just letting that go. And those thoughts can still exist in my head. That's fine. Like we can coexist, it's like that bumper sticker, coexist. Me and my crazy neurotic thoughts, we can coexist, but I don't have to give them power. They don't have to take over my life. And I say this from, coming from a place of having been through that, like having struggled with this stuff. And I realize over time that like, I cannot always trust the shit going on in my head. I don't always believe the shit in my head. Some of it's great. A lot of it's nonsense. If I just sort of step back from it and see it as thoughts in my head, it's just, chatter. It's background noise. It's so much easier for me to detach from that stuff and just carry on with my day. So ultimately, action is the antidote to overthinking. In my experience, I find it the most helpful thing. Taking action gives us something to focus on, and it helps us sort of invalidate those thoughts, right? If we're overthinking a particular action and not taking action because of those thoughts, we're procrastinating. Taking action is proof that those thoughts were wrong, or that those thoughts are something we don't really have to pay attention to. Those thoughts don't have to stop us. We can take action anyway, even if we're having all that shit in our heads. And some people might argue and say, well, I need to spend more time thinking about this before I start. I need to spend more time planning and doing, and yeah, planning, research, all that stuff is super important, but there's a point at which it becomes too much, right? And I think our, modern society, we tend to spend a lot more time in our heads because we have this leisure type culture, right? Where we have more leisure time, not that we're working less than ever, but it's a different kind of lifestyle now. And we can spend a lot of time in our heads because we're spending more time sitting. We're spending more time at our desks, at computers, on our phones, that kind of thing, doing work that doesn't keep our mind occupied as much, right? Like if you're doing physical labor, it's so much easier to get out of your head because you got to focus on the work you're doing. If you're training, you're doing your karate training, your martial arts training, it's so much easier to focus on your training and get out of your head, right? The more sitting we do, the more thinking, the more planning, the easier it is to keep doing that and just end up in this endless loop of thinking. So do as much thinking and planning and research as you need to, and then get off your butt and do the thing. Take action. Those thoughts can keep churning around and around. That's fine. Coexist, right? Coexist. You could focus on your thoughts and do nothing, or you could focus on the action and actually get results, because the thoughts in your head aren't getting you results. They're just giving you a headache. And you should fap instead. Stuck. Ouch. Okay, I will be back soon. Probably, I'm looking at the clock. That's not going to help me. It's Tuesday today. Next couple of days, I'm going to try and film. But we will see. It might end up being Friday. Fappy Friday.